It may come as a surprise, but at a time when bookstores, both independents and chains, are closing, a program that celebrates books is alive and well in Butte County. Known as the Book in Common, One Book, One City, or the Big Read, this idea was first imagined by Seattle librarian Nancy Pearl in 1998. Cities, schools, libraries, and even whole states are adopting this program and the belief that powerful ideas and a shared love of reading can help bring a central focus to our increasingly fragmented communities. Here in Butte County, California State University Chico partners with the County Library and Butte Community College to create the Book in Common. This year's book is Unquenchable by Robert Glennon. Bill Locher, director of the Book in Common program, and others explain why this book is an ideal choice for the North State.
Obviously, water is a crucially important issue in Northern California, not just for Chico, but the whole Northern California. It's a huge issue statewide. As goes water in the North State, so goes the rest of the state, really. And as the book made clear to us and to anyone who reads it, it's also a super important issue nationally, often in places where you wouldn't imagine water would be an issue, like Atlanta, Georgia, or in Minnesota. And we thought that the Book in Common as a catalyst for conversations in the community, and that's really one of the most important goals of the Book in Common, is to get people talking about issues and talking about important issues, that you couldn't pick a more important issue for Northern California than the wise use and conservation of water and the public and policy debates that go on around water.
Glennon's book does a really good job of explaining what's going on generally in the country and even in California here, as far as how we're managing our water, what we're doing with our water, a lot of the problems that are associated with irrigated agriculture, increasing populations, and new demands placed on our water system for environmental purposes. Did a great job of bringing all that together and talked a lot about how we're solving many of these problems, and many of them were applicable to us right here in Butte County.
Unquenchable has been a neat one for our campus because we've brought in a different group of people into the conversation. We have our horticulture and agriculture instructors, biology, chemistry, physics, as well as all the people who just love reading.
From time to time during your life, you'll come across something that changes the way you look at things, and you realize that there was before and after. Rachel Carson's book was one of those. And it was very, very controversial, and we were all outraged. Those of us in agriculture were outraged by her book. But now you realize that it changed the paradigm, and so we see things in a different way today. We see ourselves as stewards in a broader sense. And this book, Unquenchable, is like that. We have to see ourselves as stewards in a broader sense.
One of the highlights of the Book in Common program is meeting the author. Robert Glennon came to Chico in October 2012 and spent time with the faculty, students, and people from the community.
To have the group select my book among all the other options is just a special honor. And also that the group would select a book on water. Says something, I think, about the DNA of Chico and Northern California. Water is a special place in your lives, and having me here, I think, is a reflection of that. It's also special because I've done book clubs before, but I've never done a book club this big. So tonight I'm going to try and do a couple of things. First, I want to talk about the crisis. It's real. It hasn't gone away. The current drought, the 2012 drought, makes it even more crucial to look at these water issues. Second, I want to talk about both some real and some surreal solutions. And then finally, what we could be doing but aren't doing. At the end of the day, or the end of the evening, I'm very optimistic. We can take this problem and deal with it. but it's going to take some motivation.
Readers throughout the county joined the book club. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, known locally as OLLI, offered a class on Unquenchable.
Hosting the Book in Common course at OLLI this fall allowed our members to have an opportunity to interact with a program sponsored by the university and give us a chance to be involved and engaged with the subject that the entire community in Butte County is engaged in, seminars and other programs that were being held in conjunction with this, the opportunity to meet the author and be part of his large presentation at Laxton Auditorium gave our members a chance to really engage with the university program.
I was the Public Works Director for the City of Tracy and for the City of San Luis Obispo. And in both of those jobs, I was intimately involved either in searching for water or in dealing with water issues. What I found kind of ironic or interesting was the whole story about the city of Atlanta, because Atlanta had basically almost run out of water, and the city of San Luis Obispo almost ran out of water. And the city of San Luis Obispo went about creating a huge conservation program. Atlanta waited for the first rain and went back to normal.
I couldn't wait to read the book because it's something that my family has been interested in a long time. My grandfather was a rice farmer long ago, and then on my sister's side of the family we have a rice farming still going on and orchards and things like that. So the idea of farming and water has been a big deal in our family.
It really brought water issues to a personal level for me. When I read the book, I thought about situations where I've been going down the freeway in Northern California and seeing signs on farmers' land, you know, don't transport our water, and I didn't know a lot about water rights, and it's made me think every time I turn on the tap about letting it run and perhaps not using water the way I should.
I'm really consciously aware of what a gift it is to have water on tap, clean water. I think about people drilling wells in Africa and, you know, using mud puddle water and all of that, and I know it's a really valuable resource. And I also had heard at one of our OLLI meetings about the difficulties with water being sold in this area, about the water in the aquifers being depleted. And so I was very interested in finding out not only the problem, but the solutions.
The Book in Common provided a focal point for local organizations concerned with water issues. They were able to highlight their work and offer forums, debates, and programs to engage the community. The complicated issues that emerged include the twin tunnels, surface water rights, water allocations, and ultimately the quality of life in the North State.
Well, I really appreciated the book because it was so comprehensive. You know, each chapter really addressed a certain aspect of the water issue and made it clear that it's not just the California issue, it's not just a Southern California issue, it's an issue that's happening everywhere. And of course it's global, but you know, Robert Glennon really focused on the United States. But I think that it really brought into focus all the different issues and clarified them to an extent that we could use it as a jumping off place for our different discussions. I don't think that Robert is necessarily as in tune with what's happening in Northern California, but he really framed the issues very well, and I really appreciated that clarification that he brought.
Governor Jerry Brown has proposed a project that would install 2 40-foot tall tunnels under the Bay Delta. These tunnels would move Sacramento River water through the Delta and down to south of Delta users, largely for agribusiness needs. The water that's going to move through this system is largely going to crops that are an export industry. It's not small family farmers that are feeding Californians. These are crops such as pomegranates and pistachios that are largely being exported all over the world, and they're being grown in regions that can't sustain that kind of orchard. The soils in this area are full of salt and they require extra water just to grow the crops. These are lands that really should be retired, and we shouldn't keep trying to pump more water into a region that can't sustain this level of agriculture.
I do believe our groundwater system's at risk, and it's not from us locally, but let's be wise with how we use water, energy, whatever it may be. Robert Glennon provides a ton of answers for how we can improve our water consumption.
California water, surface water, is way over allocated. Some people say 4 times as much, some people say 8 times as much, but as much water as actually exists within the surface water systems that's generated from our snowpack and precipitation. And that on paper, much more water has been allocated, contracted to people than actually exists. And it seems to me, before we can really deal with how much water and who gets what and how do we work with this finite resource, we have to level that so we actually know what we're working with and who is being promised what. Within the Conjunctive Water Use Management program, they have what they refer to as groundwater substitution. And the premise is people who have surface water rights can sell those surface water rights for profit and then turn around and pump water from the ground to irrigate their fields. Well, Robert's perspective was the same as many of ours in our group, and that has to do with, that doesn't seem right. That's double dipping. And so to be able to go back and then turn and pump the water, putting additional stress on the aquifer, doesn't seem like that is legal.
And Robert Glennon says in his book, if any particular transfer is environmentally objectionable, environmentalists can raise objections during the government review process. Now, Robert Glennon doesn't give the particulars on how to do that. To raise objections in a legally defensible way for major water projects requires a level of sophistication that lay people absolutely don't have, and they need representatives to compose legally substantial comments that give us standing in court to actually challenge it. Glennon said that we can object, but having 1,000 people show up at a meeting and saying, we object to this water transfer of groundwater out of the North State to go to water farms in the desert of the San Joaquin Valley, well, those 1,000 hands in the air do not have legal standing in a court of law. And the only way you can stop some of these projects is by being involved in the process from the very beginning, composing comments that give you standing in court, and then getting a legal defense team together along with your geological, your hydrological, your economic, and your biological experts to defend the water of Northern California.
What are the solutions to the water crisis? What can we do as a region, as a community, as individuals? One way, of course, is education, and over 1,500 Chico State students and 200 Butte College students studied the issues all semester and then participated in a debate with water officials at the Great Debate held at City Hall. Reading Unquenchable prompted personal reflection.
Yes, I think that I've tried to change what I do on a daily basis and think about water all the time. Whereas before it was just, I didn't think about it. It's so plentiful.
Of the things I learned, one was that it takes a lot of power to produce clean water, but it also takes a lot of water to produce power. And so the two are really closely interconnected. And the other thing was that it takes so much power to cool down the great big farms, I guess you'd call them, of the computer storage. And that makes me feel that I should be a little more careful with frivolous computer usage.
Glennon's book helped to highlight changes within the community.
Bottled water is a hot topic in regards to water issues and sustainability in general. The associated students, through the funding councils, they won't fund any AS groups to have bottled water at their events. Also, we have water filling stations on all of our drinking fountains within the BMU and our gym on campus as well, so that encouraging people to bring their own canteens or their own refillable water bottles and then filling that up is something that we've really tried to promote, as well as some of the education behind that, some of the health issues regarding bottled water, and the waste and the economic issues as well, as of people paying more per gallon of water than gasoline. It becomes kind of ludicrous.
It's very important that the students understand water use in the vineyard, because we have 1.2 million acres of vines in California, and we provide 97% of all the grapes grown in the United States. So understanding the agricultural value and the market value of grapes for all their various uses, not just wine, but how we grow those grapes with a minimum amount of water so that we can sustain the bottom line and also be good stewards of our water resources in California with our wine grape growing.
Glennon showed that there are plenty of things to change.
One of my pet peeves is the flush toilet. If you think about it for more than a nanosecond, it's a very peculiar system that wastes water, wastes money, wastes energy, and it can threaten human health. Because the local water department is sending us drinking quality water, but we only use 10% of it for drinking and cooking. Fully a third of the water we get, we use outdoors for landscaping, and of the indoor use, fully a third of that we just flush away. That's 6 billion gallons of water a day. We can do better. We need alternative ways to get rid of human waste. As I meet engineers and inventors who have built better water mousetraps, things that work, better ways to measure water, to control the flow of water, on and on and on. But almost to a person, none of them has a viable business plan, because the cost of water is too low. We have to get the cost of water up. Then you'll have all kinds of incentives, and you'll unleash the creativity and these inventions that are now sitting on the sidelines, patentable, creative inventions that work, but no one, frankly, very few homeowners are going to spend $700 on an irrigation timer when the bill is $31 a month. Not going to happen.
I think we need to be concerned about what we're going to do moving forward. Obviously, particularly California is growing rapidly. We're rapidly using more water than has been readily available. Obviously, municipal industrial uses, are in a position to pay a lot more for water than agriculture is, and so we need to think about that as we grow as a state. We certainly aren't going to put people in a position where they don't have all the water they need to live with. We've done a lot of things within the urban environment to make better use of our water, where we have water efficient faucets. We're not using as much for landscaping as we used to. We use recycled water. But I don't think conservation in itself is going to solve California's future water need. And so we've got to look at ways of developing new water if that's possible. We've got to look at ways of maintaining environmental quality and at the same time having enough water available to grow the food that we need. I don't think anybody wants to substitute potato chips for computer chips.
I'm scared silly about where the future of farming, or what the future of farming will be. I mean, the reality is we Americans are spoiled. I mean, we have the cheapest food on earth. We are paying a smaller percentage of our income for food than we ever have in history. Yet at the same time, while our cost curve is going down, the farmer's cost curve is going up as the implements and fertilizers and et cetera are costly, and the percentage of the food dollar that goes to the farmer has never been so low. So you look at what's happening to farmland around the United States, and you see tens of millions of acres going out of production. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily the low value ag land. I mean, look at Sacramento. You know, a lot of the lands that have gone into subdivisions in the last generation have been really high quality lands. Just earlier today I heard about the green line, is that the right term for it here? You know, try and save the high quality farmland. God love you, that's a worthwhile endeavor. Don't let fabulous quality farmland be gobbled up by mindless urban sprawl. That's a really critical issue.
What can we do to change the essential calculus of water? To go beyond conservation? What can we do to preserve our quality of life and the life of the planet?
We decided to expand the benefits of the book in common this year, which was Unquenchable, by hosting a Code Blue water series. And we did that because of all the timely issues happening around water right now with groundwater export, selling surface water rights south, and the Twin Tunnels project. So water is one of those issues that people find too complex to do anything about. And so what we wanted to do is engage and empower people so they can not only learn the science and the management issues behind water, but also start to take action on those. And what that would look like is after a training, it would really starts with paying attention. So when you hear about a water issue, realize that nobody's representing you, and really when you get upset about it, it's up to you to do something about. So that means staying informed, that means writing your representatives, that means joining a group who's is doing their best to represent you on water issues, and that means being informed when it comes to the ballot, which it will.
One of the problems associated with the book Unquenchable as a book in common is that it may leave people feeling complacent. That, okay, yeah, there's a big problem, but we can solve it, so let's check that box and move on. That is a great error, and we need to recognize that water conservation is part of a much broader effort at reformulating values such that we can in fact refer to the life support system and reshape our relationship to it such that we see ourselves as part of the life support system, not merely beneficiaries from the variety of resources available to us.
This valley has changed dramatically in my lifetime. When I was a youngster, in our stream, there were freshwater mussels, and we could water livestock. We routinely supplied livestock with water from our little creek. Well, our little creek dries up in the spring and doesn't come back until around Christmas time now. The water table under Chico has been dropping for decades, and it's accelerating. Our aquifer is far more vulnerable than anyone appreciated, and unless we get smart and start managing it carefully, then the system north of the delta, the whole northern valley and the surrounding mountains, that system is going to start going haywire very quickly, and we're kind of at a tipping point now, and so people should read the book for background and start attending the meetings, because if we don't do a better job of managing this, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and our local economy will be unsustainable.
So at the end of the day, where are we? Well, at the end of the day, we're treating water like we treated buffalo. We did our very best to try to harvest that poor beast to extinction, and we were admirably efficient. We have not done very well by our water supplies, and we must change. But in the end, I'm optimistic, because the crisis is real. I have no doubt about that. Very real. But a crisis is a time of opportunity. A crisis is a time when there are still paths to choose between, decisions to make about going in one direction or in another direction. And tonight, what I've tried to do is to outline a menu of options. It's not one size fits all. We can mix and match. But what we really need, if we're to prevent the crisis from becoming a catastrophe, is the moral courage and the political will to act. Thanks very much.
At the end of a busy year reading water, we sense greater community, more conversation, and evidence that the common good is indeed a common value.
The Book in Common has created a bridge between the campus, California State University Chico, and the broader community. And of course, since Butte College is also a partner of ours in the Book in Common, between the college, the university, the community, it's really created a community of readers, of thinkers, of discussers, of very important issues. The last Book in Common that we had in 2012-13 on water issues has enabled us to connect with the agricultural community, with all of the water users, who is everybody, from a historical perspective, a contemporary perspective. It's brought people onto campus who wouldn't normally come to campus, and it's provided an opportunity for broad discussion of a very important issue to everyone in the community. And that's really the goal of the Book in Common, to get dialogue and discussion going and get people talking to one another about issues that matter.